Okay, so we're going to go over some basics with the hand building assignments that you're going to do. And the first thing you need to learn how to do is wedge your clay. Now, wedging your clay is another way of saying kneading it. And essentially what you're going to do is compress the clay so it eliminates air bubbles. It makes it softer and more flexible to work with. And it makes it more consistent if you're using clay that may have dry sections and more wet sections. But anyways, what you're going to do is use this parts of your palms called the heel of your palms. You're going to start on a tall spot and you're going to push down and away, okay? Then you're going to lift this up, pull it back, and repeat. Again, pushing down and away. And you're going to do that about 15 times to 25 times. Okay, when it gets too long, flip it the taller way and repeat. Okay? And you can see I'm not really stretching it out that far. I'm just trying to compact and compress the clay so that I get rid of air bubbles and make it really soft and workable. All right. So, the next thing I'm going to do is get rid of these wrinkles and folds. One way to do that is just to push down on the table and make a cube, repeatedly slamming that down on opposite sides to get rid of all wrinkles and folds. That's going to push the rest of the air out. The way I like to do this is actually a little bit different though. I'll just instead use the center of my palms and compress side to side again and again and again. Then I'll know I'm finished when it's compressed, and if I look at that and there's no more wrinkles, folds on the surface, okay? And you can check to make sure that you've wedged properly by taking your wire tool and simply taking this and cutting in half, okay? Now, after you've tested this one time, you don't need to cut it every single time because now I have something that I'd have to wedge again. But if it looks smooth like this, where there's no air pockets in there or no little bubbles, then it's good to go. If you see little pinprick holes in there, then that means that you need to practice your wedging some more, okay? Now, the first technique that I'm going to show you is probably the most intuitive. It's called pinch, okay? And it's just literally doing with your hands what the technique says. So I'm going to take this ball of clay. I'm going to push my thumb in, not all the way to the edge, but I'm going to leave about, half an inch or so at the bottom. And then I'm going to pinch and squeeze between my finger and my thumb, and I'm going to use my other hand to rotate the ball of clay. Okay? As I do that, it's going to start thinning out the clay around my thumb. As I do that too, you can see the overlap, and then I'm working my way from the bottom to the top of the wall. I'm going to do this slow and steady. This will help prevent cracking on the surface, and it will also help me feel for consistency. The aim of this is to get this to about a quarter to, a little less than a quarter of an inch thick, which is about half your pinky's thickness. Okay, we're getting close already. I'm going to slow down because you can see it's starting to crack. I'm going to go back down to the bottom and repeat this process. Okay, depending on the size of clay you have, you may need to switch this technique to try a different style of pinch. So instead of using a pinch between my fingers, I could pinch between my fingers and my palm. So say I can't reach far enough, I can put my palm on the outside and I can use a finger to push into my palm. And that does the same sort of pinching the clay in between 2 points. Okay? Now I'm doing fine with just my fingers, so I'm just going to continue that, just giving you another way of trying that technique. Okay? And again, take your time. You may have some cracks that form on the surface if your clay is too dry, or if you work too quickly, it can get excessive. But if you can see that, just going slow, I don't have too many cracks that are forming. Okay? And then at this point, you can start using tools to smooth it out or to add textures to balance things out in detail. But right now I'm just going to rub the surface to kind of clean up the cracks that I have around the upper edge and take care of most of the work just as I have it here. And you can see again that this is even a little bit less than half of a pinky's thickness, so I'm doing pretty good here. And again, check the thickness, just run your finger down the wall, see if it's the same thickness in every single spot. Because that consistency and thickness is going to be really important to allow this form to dry out evenly, because if you have any absorbed water, that moisture is going to create steam when we fire, and that can actually cause your work to explode from pressurized moisture within the clay wall. Okay, so at this point, it's still pretty soft, but I'm pretty well finished doing the pinching, and I'll save this for doing some detail work later. So I'm just going to set that upside down when I store it. Now when you store your work, you're going to need some sort of thin plastic bag to store it. Okay? So make sure, even if it's just a rough piece of plastic that it has a bunch of holes in it, just make sure that you have everything covered up. Okay? And it should be fine. The less air that you have inside of your bag, the better, unless you're trying to dry it out so it's a little bit firmer. But this will dry slowly anyways. And again, I'm storing it upside down. Okay?